title from the 90s. I have said in past videos that I did not grow up with television as a kid, so a lot of shows that other people grew up with I didn't get to watch much of. But there were always occasions when I would be at somebody else's house or something and I would catch a couple episodes of some show or other. This is one of those shows that I saw a few episodes of and always wished I could have seen more of. So recently I decided to see if I could find it and watch it now. So without further ado, this week's video is on Dragonflies.
In the future, all of us shall know men once walked upon the earth below. But now we fly at mega height. Long live Atlantis, flight is might. Dragonflies, maximize, fly forever through dragon skies. With dread wing in its grip.
First of all, I just have to say that I freaking love that theme song, Ermagerd. Dragonflies has a really cool, really fascinating world built. It's set in the far distant future when some kind of a nuclear war has decimated the planet and rendered the surface of the earth completely unlivable. Radiation has mutated most of the creatures and people so that the planet is filled with all number of monsters. The remnants of humanity have taken refuge on a floating city in the sky called Airlandis. Also, there are dragons. I would assume the dragons are also some form of a mutation that has arisen since the apocalypse, like all the other strange creatures on the planet. There's nothing really much to say about the art style or the animation here, as it is fairly typical 90s fare. The character designs are incredibly dated now, and we can only shake our heads and wonder why mullets and feather helmets were ever considered a good idea. But all in all, it looks fine for its time. The show's biggest strong points are its concepts and ideas, but it's a little bit weaker on story writing, characterization, and dialogue. The writing often doesn't make a lot of sense, with characters doing things that are just completely illogical, and the dialogue is pretty bad at times. Like many shows of its time, and especially shows that are designed simply to sell a toy line, it does suffer from the characters all being pretty darn interchangeable. I would say that the most interesting character is Apex, as she's the only one that's really distinct from the rest of the group. And no, it's not just that she's the only chick, she also has some powers and abilities that set her apart from everyone else. The rest of them are pretty much all the exact same character. The bad guys are actually much more interesting than the heroes, with some really cool, visually interesting character designs, memorable voice acting, albeit often very overdone, and all sorts of squabbles amongst themselves. They are, of course, evil purely for evil's sake, without any real depth or motivation, but they do manage to be a lot more interesting to watch than the good guys. Where the show shines the most, however, as I said, is conceptually. Much like Visionaries, this was a show that had a whole lot of potential that was never quite realized. All the scenery of old Earth is breathtaking. The artists really went out of their way to make the surface world a hellish nightmare of a planet, completely inhospitable to normal Earthian life, making it the perfect home for the mutants that live there. And the idea of a floating city in the sky with a military that's all based around flight, with winged suits and dragons for steeds, all of this is really freaking cool. The action sequences are incredibly fun and engaging too. I would say that this is actually a very impressively cool action show with all sorts of awesome aerial battles and all sorts of really kick-ass monster designs. It's too bad that since this is a kids show, there's no realism to the violence, i.e. any deaths or even blood shown, but despite that, it does manage to be very fun to watch. Altogether, it is largely what you would expect from an action sci-fi kids show from this era. I expected the corny lines, the hammy acting, and the altogether non-existent character development, but I also got a really cool setting and a lot of really awesome action. I would say that all they would really need to do now to reboot this title would be to update the character designs and write some much better dialogue, and this could be really, really awesome. Dragonflies, maximize!
No one can stop them but the dragonflies. White is white.
guys a piece of my childhood revisited. Please comment and subscribe if you enjoyed it. You can also add me to Facebook and give me some suggestions for shows to check out in the future. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye!